let's begin.
All right.
So what was something that you were looking forward to? What was something you were excited about before you got married? Like, what were you excited about?
Definitely having kids. That's just what I've wanted to do for
Yeah.
forever. So I was like, I told him when we first started dating, I was like, I mean, the day we get married, the clock starts, man. I want kids tomorrow. Like, I want kids right away. And he's a lot more practical than I am. We're very, very in a lot of ways. He's a lot more like, let's think about it. Let's get financially stable. And so,
Right.
but that was my first goal, was like, I want kids right now.
Right. That's good. That's exciting. How is it having kids right now? Like,
good. No, I enjoy it. I mean, I like having them at a bit of a younger age. Like, I think if we had waited, it would have been fine too. But having them at an age where I feel like I can still keep up with them, I feel like it's really helpful because my kids are active. But other than that, it's been good. It's been a learning experience. Even though I thought I was super prepared, everything that I thought I knew went out the window. So
yeah, that's gonna be another question I'll ask later on. What were some things that you were kind of nervous about?
A really big thing was the cultural difference. Even though Imo and I are from the same country, we're from two different tribes, and also he grew up in Nigeria and I grew up mostly in America.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things that we kind of talked about, was that, you know, I do have a lot of Nigerian values and a lot of things that we have that are the same, but a lot of my views are a little bit more expanded because I grew up in America, and I'm a little bit more, I would say, like, modern because of that. And so that was definitely a point of clashing a few times. You know, he's a lot more traditional, and I am in a lot of senses too, but there's a lot of American influence in that. So that was definitely the subject of a lot of butting heads.
Right. Which is what tribe? I know you're Yoruba. What tribe is your husband?
He's Igbo.
He's Igbo. And how is that? The Igbo tribe, they are definitely very traditional.
They are passionate people. Let me say that in the nicest way I can. They are passionate people.
Definitely understandable. So what were some ways you guys were able to mend some of your differences with, like, you being raised here in America and then him spending most of his life in Nigeria? Like, how did you figure out some of those differences?
Oh, well, our case is a little bit different just because we didn't date very long before we got married. We were just kind of like, we're in love, let's do it, it's happening. So we spent a lot of the first couple of years really dating and getting to know each other. And so a lot of it was just, we didn't know how we were going to react to it until it actually happened. Having the conversation of, like, private and public school. That was a really big thing because private school is a really big thing in Nigeria. And here, I don't really think that private school is that big of a deal. I think they have the same education. It's just one more money. So
private schools are expensive, bro.
I'm like, is there a different math that private schools learn? Because if not, then it's fine. They can just go to public school.
Like, do they come out like 10 times smarter? Because I don't understand.
No, I don't think so. They still do the same 1 + 1. But I think I didn't think to have that conversation until we actually got to the subject of, like, when Rena was doing, like, assessments to get into preschool and stuff like that. We didn't really think to have that conversation until it started happening. And they were like, okay, so you really think that private schools are super big? And I kind of explained, because in Nigeria, it is a bigger deal, definitely. Private schools are a lot more funded. They're a lot more, you know, serious and everything like that. And but, you know, here it's really not. It's just about name, pretty much, is what it is. So I just kind of having those conversations. Communication has been the biggest thing, probably. I thought I was a pretty good communicator until I got married, and I realized I actually suck at it.
We're all a work in progress, too.
I communicate really well in my own head, but then when it's like talking to another person, I'm just like, no, why are you not agreeing with everything I'm saying? I'm right. Get over it. So I had to kind of realize that even though we had different ways of, you know, love language is a really big topic for me. Like, I think that it's really important to know your partner's love language, but also communication style, because
Yeah.
I like to talk everything to death. I'm like, let's talk about this point.
I think that's a woman. I think that's a woman thing. I'm like that too. I
And
want
he's
to
just
talk
gonna be
about
like,
how did this make you feel?
no, okay. And he's just like, that was the biggest thing, was like, I had to realize that him being quiet was him not being like standoffish or angry at me or
Yeah.
anything like that. I just needed to not talk everything to death. And so
Yeah.
I think we didn't really realize what we were going to disagree on until we actually came to
Got
the point of having the conversation.
right. That's awesome. That's good. That's good. You be able
Yeah.
to resolve those things. So for people who are single right now, what advice would you give them to prepare themselves to be married? What should they be doing more of now?
Definitely learning about yourself.
Yeah.
Like I said, I thought I was a really good communicator until I had somebody who was there with me every single day. Because I think dating is a little bit different than marriage, unless you're living with your partner. I think once you
Right.
start to live with somebody and you have to communicate about everything, pretty much, you have to communicate about, finances and getting groceries down to, who's picking up the kids, who's putting them to bed, who's getting them
Right.
ready. Like, you have to talk about everything. Thank you so much. Sorry. You have
It's
to
okay.
talk about everything. And I think it's just really important to understand what it is that, your triggers, like what makes you angry, what makes you sad, what makes you, because once you understand that, you can express it better to your partner. Because if you don't know
Right.
why it is that what they're doing is pissing you off, you're not going to be able to communicate that with them, and they're not going to be able to, adjust that behavior. Because you can't really change people. People don't really change, but you can adapt to each other's differences.
That's
And I
good.
think once you understand what makes you happy, what makes you sad, what makes you angry, you can communicate that better, and they can adjust and say, oh, they don't like it when I just do things. They want me to communicate that with them first. Like, one really stupid fight that we have all the time is that when he goes to run errands, he'll stop at 9 different places and take 2 hours longer than I thought he was going to in my head. So I immediately go to oh my gosh, his car crashed. He's on the side of the road. I need to call him. I need to start figuring out how I'm going to tell his family that his car exploded. But he's like, oh no, I had to make 4 extra stops and I didn't think to tell you about that. And that was just one thing. I'm like, no, if you stop at the gas station, text me and tell me you're at the gas station, so I don't think that you should be home already. So that's just one thing that's why am I getting angry about this? I had to express that to him and not just assume he knew.
Right. That's good. That's good. Communication is vital. But there's this quote that I've heard that, we talk about communication, they say communication is not everything. It's the person understanding what you're saying, because you can communicate all you want, but if the person's not getting it,
Facts.
wasting your time. And I think that's the hard part. But marriage is like a work in progress. You feel like your journey from day one to where you guys are at, it's either growth and everything you've been through, and it's like a give and take type of a thing, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, because, there's one thing to actually say what you want, but it's a whole completely different thing to actually communicate what you want. Because I can be like, I don't want you to do that. Okay, why? Why? How does it make you feel? I think it's, saying and communicating are 2 completely different things. So I definitely agree with that quote. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So for you, being you're Yoruba, he's Igbo, what does, and even just in general, biblically it talks about submission. What does the wife submitting mean to you, and how do you do that by not being walked over? How do you find that balance with submission?
Yeah. Submission to me, I think when we hear submission, especially as single people, we hear it as, oh, husband's gonna make all the decisions, I'm gonna have to just bite my tongue and live with it. My submission personally is because I know he is the head of the household, and I respect that comes into my traditional values. I know that I have to run things by him because that's his role as the husband, is to take care of the family and to make sure that everything is right with all the decisions. And so he has that burden on him,
Right.
and I have to respect that. But it's not about, okay, can you tell me what we're going to do? It's kind of more like, this is what my point is, what's your point, but still having it boil down to, if he strongly believes that this is not going to be beneficial to the family and he makes that decision, I have to abide by that, because he's, especially when you have somebody who's God-fearing. I think that's definitely different than somebody than like a secular relationship, because I think
Right.
in a secular relationship sometimes that submission gets taken advantage of, and it's like, nope, it's my way or the highway. But
Right.
when you have somebody who is fervent and prays and is submissive to God as well, it's easier to submit to them, because you
Definitely.
know that the decisions that they're making is coming from a good place, as opposed to just wanting to be the boss and tell you what to do and, you know, degrade you and things like that. It's just about finding
Right.
that balance and understanding where those decision making is coming from, I would say.
Definitely. That's good. So what are 3 things so far, 3 tools you feel like have really helped you to succeed so far in your marriage?